Thank you so much for joining us today, Fatima, to share your personal story of hope. It takes a lot of courage for survivors to share your experiences and to share, what you experienced throughout your life, because you were, diagnosed at a younger age, and at least symptoms started at a younger age. And so why don't you start off by just telling us a little bit about you?
Okay, well, hi everybody. My name is Fatima Issa. I'm a Canadian who has lived in the US for a good portion of my life. Um, I'm currently a medical student, and what my interests are, I like to paint, I like to draw, I like to do puzzles. I'm a pretty generally normal type of person. I was actually diagnosed with a brain tumor around the 5th grade. And I remember my neurology appointment. It was, I went in with my mom to a neurologist, and she said, just go get an MRI just to see what's going on, because I was dealing with a lot of headaches. And it didn't make sense for a child at that age to be having that many headaches within a month time span. So we got the MRI, and the MRI stated that I had a pituitary adenoma, and it was non-malignant, and it was pretty small at the time, but for my body, I guess, or for my brain, it was pretty intense. I would have headaches probably every single day, if not every other day. And so that was around 5th grade, and they told us to just watch and wait. So I went on with school, and I was progressing in life, and I got into high school. I think I was a very leadership oriented person. I think you guys can see I was class president. I was always type A personality, always invested in school, always loved science, everything that had to do with the human body and all of that. And I especially had an interest in neurology. And when I developed the interest in neurology, at that time, I already had forgotten that I had a brain tumor, because it was just a normal function of my life. And they just told me to just wait and just deal with it as it was. And that was something that I accepted when I was in high school. And so anyways, I was very interested in neurology. And I remember in my senior year of high school, I determined my special. I wanted to be a doctor, and I wanted to be a neurologist. And then the next year I had an MRI, and the MRI showed that my brain tumor grew a little bit more.
Okay.
And my
Sorry,
symptoms start.
how old were you then, Fatima?
You could say like 18, 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so those symptoms started to get really aggressive. They were more aggressive than they were back in early high school, middle school, and all of that. I had no sense of smell since I could remember. So I think that was associated with the brain tumor, especially where it's located,
Right.
because your hair cells for your olfactory nerves are located right above the pituitary. So I think the pituitary just ripped off those hair cells. But yeah, so I had daily headaches. I had no sense of smell. It's called bitemporal hemianopsia, but I had temporal because it was only on one side. And so I couldn't see from one portion of my right eye. And so these symptoms were really aggressive because they would take control of my entire life. I had to mediate my life based on how intense my headaches were that week or that day. And a lot of times I would have to take days off and just manage myself and sit in a dark room and just not move. So physicians started to prescribe me lots of medications, and the medications, the physicians hoped for the best by giving me these medications, but in reality, the medications actually hurt me by sedating me really intensely.
Yeah.
And that sedation went on for like 4 years throughout college.
Yeah.
And so through those 4 years, I was getting a yearly MRI, and every year the MRI would show that my tumor was getting bigger.
Right.
And so the medications started getting more because the headaches started getting more. And so a lot of physicians brushed me off slightly to the side because I looked normal.
Do you think it was because it was considered, its pituitary adenomas are a non-malignant tumor? Do you think that that's why maybe it was being brushed off, that it's not cancerous, so it's not as severe? And I'm using air quotes for our audience because I'm really happy to use the word non-malignant, because we're really trying to, encourage our healthcare community as well as the rest of our brain tumor community to use the term non-malignant as opposed to the word benign, because we feel that there's nothing benign about having a mass in your control center, right? Which is what
Exactly.
you got. And so also just a little bit for the audience is that it is common to do a wait and see approach when it is a non-malignant, slow growing tumor. So I imagine obviously you got to a certain point where you have to we're going to talk about treatment in a second, but maybe you can talk to us a little bit about this photo of you here at the hospital and your actual diagnosis with a pituitary adenoma.
Yes. So that wait and see approach was what was given to me.
Yeah.
And I think, like what you said, it was brushed off because it was considered benign and not malignant.
Yeah.
And to a lot of people, that was okay because you're still alive and you still will be alive.
Right.
And your daily functions of living, that was pretty much my own issue that I had to deal with, you know? So the wait and see approach was given to me up until I took matters into my own hands. And that was when I was 25 years old. I I found a neurosurgeon who was really good and very experienced in the transfenoidal pituitary adenoma resection approach. And I did a lot of research on him on my own because I went to see so many neurologists who didn't understand that my life was falling apart due to the tumor,
Right.
and didn't want to put their hands in that pot. I don't know how to say that quote.
Sure.
But they didn't want to do anything about it because it wasn't malignant. And so I found this neurosurgeon who, the first second I saw him, he got my MRIs and he got all of my history, and he said, it's time to resect and it's time to remove those medicines, which were, a lot of them were sedatives. And it was time to move forward in life. And so that picture was when I had my brain surgery. I didn't even know that somebody took that picture of me. Obviously, as you can tell, I'm not even like aware. So I had the tumor I had the tumor removal on September 27, 2016. And it was just great. It was like, obviously after the surgery, I had an incident that happened a week later where my ENT was checking the site and blood. It was an emergency surgery that had to happen, but these are complications that I knew could have happened. And so I got the surgery, and then I got the emergency surgery, and then I spent 4 months in recovery. And so, okay, so that picture was my 6-month anniversary after my surgery. And after I had brain surgery, 6 months later, I went to med school. And that's when I started med school. And I would go to school, and then I would study until 8:00 p.m. And then my brain just needed to sleep for God knows how long.
Yeah.
So I think 4 months, I was in recovery for 4 months in my bed, but in reality, the recovery period took about 1.5 years for my brain to actually recover from everything that happened to it. So yeah, so that was my 6-month anniversary to myself. I would give myself every 6 months, I would give myself a little cake and congratulate myself. Yes.
I'm all of a sudden craving a chocolate chip cookie with sprinkles on it.
It's so good.
Okay, so should I go to the next slide?
Yes, sure.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, coping, I'm sure you had to cope with a lot of different things from the 5th grade leading up to your surgery, physically, mentally, emotionally, but talk to us a little bit about, since your surgery, since your treatment, how you do cope with those areas of your life, and what do you do to cope with maybe feeling physically exhausted, especially you're in 3rd year med school. Amazing. You are a superhero, superstar. So yeah, tell us a little bit about what you do to deal with those energy levels.
Yeah. So really the energy levels after the surgery and after everything that has happened they would come and go in terms of the fact that I would be high up there and very thankful for life and very grateful and just feeling connected with the world. And then there would be depressive episodes where I would feel very upset about what happened in my past and how long it took. And a lot of these, it wasn't a self-pity type of episode, but it was more of a mourning type of episode where I was mourning what happened to me in order to be able to move on. So I coped by being near water. Anytime I was near water, I just felt so at ease. And anytime I would paint, it would help me so much. And I started to actually, I started to write in my journal when I felt intense emotions. And I would write why I felt them. And it was just very therapeutic to address your emotions when they come up rather than pretending that they're not there. And then the emotions will come up as another functioning. So like if I didn't address my emotions at the time that I felt them, they would come out as anxiety, or they would come out as depression or anger, or whatever the case may be. But if I felt sad about what happened to me, I would start writing it down, or I would go to the water and I would just reflect on things. And so that's one thing that I would definitely tell patients and people that have recovered is to deal with the emotions as sad as they are. Because that's the only way you can get past it is to get through it. And so you have to deal with like the fear of losing your life with the reality of the fear of losing your life. And you have to deal with the sad reality of having a brain tumor and find a good aspect in it. And so that's what I was doing for the past 4 years. And I'm still doing that. Thankfully, I'm getting much better in terms of the sadness. I'm actually thankfully much happier, but I had to go through the sadness in order to get happier.
It's a process, right? For people.
Major process.
And I'm a bit biased because creativity is my top core value. So I'm really happy to hear that you do lean towards doing those creative activities for yourself when you're feeling low, or you just need to reset, or you need a new perspective. I think it's really, really important for people to find what kind of soothes their soul, right? And helps them kind of move forward and deal with those emotions. So thank you for sharing that with us for sure. Yeah. So what do we have next here? So maybe some tips and suggestions for family members, maybe any stories or examples you can share with us.
Yes. Okay, so I have a few tips that I wrote out here, but I think before I talk about the tips, I think I want to talk about a story that I had before I had the surgery. And this is more of a story about acceptance of what has happened to you. So before I had the surgery, I met some guy, and he was in his late 40s or early 50s. And I think we had the discussion about a brain tumor. I don't know how it happened, but this situation came up. And he told me that he had one, and then he had surgery, and he showed me his surgery scar. This was before transperineal resection and stuff like that. So he showed me his scar, and I remember when I saw him, I could see the sadness in his eyes, but also I could see that he was telling me that there's hope. And so I remember when I saw his eyes, I was like, wow, he is really strong. And also he's really going through it. And so I thought at the time that I would never want to be like that. I would never want to be in that position. And then I got put in that position because it was my time to get surgery and it was my time to move forward. And the past 3 years, not 4, but the past 3 years, I was that guy where I was really going through it, but I was really strong. And it took me a minute to accept that I was that person. But when I finally accepted it, I realized that I am who I am because of my history. I am who I am because of my brain tumor. And if anything, if I could do anything, it would be to use my pain to help others. And That's what that guy did.
And that's what you're
So
doing today for so many people, Fatima. So thank you. Yeah, it's, you know, it takes a lot of courage to tell your story and to share your experiences with people. And it sounds like you're a very empathetic person. So I'm sure you'll be there for many, many more people. And I love the quote that you have here on your slide from The Alchemist. It's actually one of my favorite
yeah,
quotes.
really.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's a very good quote for a lot of people.
Yeah.
If they really resonate to it or resonate with it, because um, like what that story relates to, it's the place where you're brought to tears. That's where your
Yeah.
treasure is. There's good in such a seemingly bad thing. There
Mm-hmm.
is good, and
Mm-hmm.
if everybody here can find the good, or at least try to find the good,
Yeah.
they will, and they'll be able to give back and help others and um, help the world, or at least the brain tumor world,
Mm-hmm.
to be a bit better. And I think that's what the foundation does. It helps people to come together, to understand that they're not alone,
Yeah.
to understand that there's progress being made. Because, you know, obviously with brain tumors, it's very minimized
Mm-hmm.
in the grand scheme of all cancers and stuff like that. And so we have to come together and we have to help each other and we have to voice our experiences so that at least one person doesn't feel alone and
Yeah.
doesn't feel like they're at this by themselves.
Yeah.
Um,
And sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and, you know, and just to remind people that, you know, you were diagnosed with pituitary adenoma, that doesn't mean that the next person diagnosed with the same type of tumor is going to have the exact same experience as you, or the exact
Exactly.
same treatment plan as you, or the same length of time of the wait and see approach. You know, somebody did post a question that I'll ask now, actually, now that we're on the topic, is how did you handle over the years, we call it scanxiety, the
Mm-hmm.
anxiety of having to go for another scan every 6 months, every year. So how did you cope with that over the years? Because that's like a long time, from the fifth grade until your early
Yeah.
20s, right? Mid 20s.
Mm-hmm. I think I don't know if this is a healthy approach,
Mhm.
but I numbed it out.
Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you for your
and
honesty. Yeah.
yeah, and that's why now when I experience emotions,
Mhm.
I make sure to address them immediately because numbing it out
Mhm.
is not a good way to approach it.
Sure.
Um, so that's what I did.
Mhm.
But now I with my approaches now, because you still have to continuously get MRIs,
Yeah.
I just face it and I think about it for a day or two beforehand just to like sit with it, rest with
Mhm.
it, accept it, and just go in and have faith. And
Mhm.
it takes a lot of self-talk and a lot of,
Yeah.
self-soothing and stuff like that.
Do you still go for scans?
I do, yeah. I'm supposed to go once a year.
Mhm.
I'm in great contact with my neurosurgeon, so
Mhm.
he's always checking in on me, always. Him and I are just
Great.
there's soul connections in some way.
Yeah, for
um,
sure.
yeah, but I'm always managing and checking to make sure that everything is good. And I think you have to do that for the first 5 years. You have to do an MRI every year. And then after that, I think it's like once every 2 years, once every 3 years,
Mhm.
things like that.
Great.
Yeah.
So here you have some great tips for family and
Yes.
friends, such as like advocating for yourself and exercise and eating good food,
Yeah.
healthy food. Do you have some tips and suggestions also for healthcare professionals now, especially you're in med school and you're around a lot of healthcare professionals, but thinking back
Yeah,
to your own personal experience, do you have any specific suggestions for healthcare professionals?
definitely. I think my tips for healthcare professionals is to let them know that if somebody looks pretty normal, but they're coming to you with very intense symptoms and signs, that sit with them for a while
Mhm.
and see how intense is it or where is it coming from, and see if it's functioning, if it's allowing their daily functions to be affected. And honestly, like my tip is just to be more empathetic towards patients,
Yeah.
because the healthcare profession is just so fast paced and we're always trying to take care of so many patients. And it's not that we're dismissing patients, it's just that there's so much always going on
Mhm.
that as a person, we just, if somebody looks a bit more normal, we're like, okay, they're fine. And we just move on to the more intense situations. But when it comes to patients who are continuously seeing you, telling you that there's an issue going on, sit with them for a minute and see really what's going on and not what you would like to see going on.
Yeah,
So,
those are great suggestions. Thank you so much.
mhm.
So where are you now? I mean, I know you're in
Yeah,
Michigan right now,
I am.
third year of med school. So
Yes,
I'm interested in going into neurology. So we're really excited
definitely.
about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, talk to us a little bit about how your life has changed.
Yes. So after the surgery, again, there was a lot of recovery time, a lot of self-talk, a lot of all that stuff, but there was a lot of great things. My life completely changed. I'm no longer taking any medication. I'm living my life based on what I love, not based on fear of dying or illness or whatever the case may be. I'm taking every day, I wake up every day and I'm just so thankful that I'm alive. And I'm so thankful that I'm able to fulfill my prophecy, my passion, everything that I've ever wanted to become, I'm becoming. And honestly, I don't think I would have become it without this tumor had happened, if the tumor had it happened.
Yeah.
Um, so now that I'm on the opposite side of it, I'm very, very thankful. I'm in Michigan right now. I'm going to Georgia to continue my rotations. I'm applying for residency for the 2023 cycle. And so, God willing, I'll be a neurologist in 2023. So, if you guys want to see a neurologist in Michigan, I'm right here. um, yeah, so I'm working really hard and I'm thriving and I want to be able to give back. So this is all my hard work is made for me to be happy, but more importantly, it's made to help people who were in my position.
Mhm.
And so that's my goal in life,
That's
to
amazing to
just
hear.
help.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. And so look at these
And
awesome
that's me.
pictures of you holding a heart. What, and it looks
Yes.
like you did a poster board there at probably a medical conference of some kind.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. That was actually that was a study on the influence of your gut microbiota and how it affects your brain, how
Yeah,
it can affect Alzheimer's and anxiety and things like that. So if you have
interesting.
any questions about that, I can let you know.
Very cool. Thank you. There are a couple questions that did pop up, if you don't mind me
Sure.
asking them now. How do you think your own experiences with a brain tumor will impact the care you will give your patients in the future? Great question.
Mhm. Um, I think I think it'll allow me to be more empathetic
Mhm.
and it will allow me to connect with them on a deeper basis than a physician-patient relationship. It will be, it'll definitely be a physician-patient relationship, but it'll also be a soul-to-soul relationship in terms of saying, yeah, I see you.
Mhm.
I've dealt with something like this. I know you're scared,
Mhm.
but I know that you can do this. And look at me, I've done it.
Yeah.
So if you can take one example of a little bit of faith, please take me as an example of faith that you can move forward and live with your life the best way that you could. So
Very inspiring. Thank you. Another question is, how did you juggle the workload of medical school with your physical fitness? Were there particular strategies you used? Great questions.
yes, for that one, it was a very, so I'm in medical school, you have to orient every hour
Mhm.
to, you have to do something every hour. So I knew in the first year of med school that there was a lot of emotional baggage that I still had from what happened. So I would allow myself to study probably like 10 hours a day and then give myself 2 hours to break down.
Mhm.
But it was necessary. I needed to study, but I also needed to recover.
Yeah.
So I spent most of my time studying. And if I was feeling all these emotions while I was studying, I would tell myself, not right now, just wait until the end of the day. And then at the end of the day, I would allow myself to just release it.
Mhm.
And then I would reward myself. I would just like get a piece of cake or something and
I
be
was
like,
going to say
good
a
job.
chocolate chip cookie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I had to be my own advocate, my own
Yeah.
friend. Yeah.
And that is a great reminder to people, is it's really important to advocate for ourselves, or if
Mhm.
it's hard for you to advocate for yourself, have a family member or friend advocate for you as well, right? Or help to
Exactly.
ask those questions to your healthcare team. Absolutely. Not a question, but a comment from Carolyn. Thank you for sharing your story, Fatima. I was diagnosed with a brain tumor at 6 years old. I was also on a watch and wait treatment plan for 11 years. When I was 17, I started 70 weeks of chemotherapy. I continued a watch and wait plan for 4 years. I recently found out I will be having brain surgery this summer, so hearing your story really helped me. Thank you, Karen.
Wow.
Um,
Best of luck. Best of luck. You're gonna do amazing regardless.
yeah,
She's gonna do amazing.
yeah. Somebody else said you're so courageous, and you sharing your story is amazing. And lots of people are sending you lots of hugs. So thank you so much
Thank you.
for sharing your experience. Anything else you want to add before we log off?
Um, I just want to say to everybody, whoever's a patient here, um, just know to have faith in yourself and have faith that things will get better in whatever way they're meant to get better. And then for the healthcare professionals, just advocate for your patients, help your patients, sit with them a bit longer, and let's bring more awareness to this because I feel like
Mhm.
brain tumors need to be more talked about.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah,
Well, thank you so much, Fatima. We wish you all the best in medical school. I can't wait to
thank you.
hear how it goes in Georgia. And when you're back in Ontario, please connect with us for sure.
Definitely.
And we really just, we know how busy you are, so we really do appreciate you taking the time. And we will be sharing the recording, Fatima's presentation and Elisa's presentation the next week or so to everybody who registered, and we'll also put it up online. So thank you again, Fatima. All the
Thank you.
best in your endeavors, and we can't wait to call you Dr. Fatima Issa.
Thank you.
In a
Thank
few
you.
years. Yeah. All the
Thank you
best.
so much. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. And just before we officially log off, if anybody is on social media, please make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and or LinkedIn. We have lots of stuff going on social media. Any updates that you need for different events or different programs, we always share there. And if you have any questions, any more questions for our presenters today, please feel free to email me directly and I can connect you with Elise or Fatima. And as I said, we will be sending the recording of the presentations in the next week or so. The Sunday is the Brain Tumor Walk, so please make sure you register and fundraise for our brain tumor community. Our goal is to raise $1.4 million, and we've already raised over $1 million. So big thanks to everybody who's already been involved and fundraising and creating awareness for us. So everybody, have a great day, and we'll chat soon.